Shalom. Okay, let me know if you guys can hear me all right. Hope you're having a great day or evening wherever you're at. Shalom Harrison from Thailand in the future. And shalom, is Frank in Thailand here with us right now? Shalom Yakar, Gary, Thea, Admin Brenda, Felix, Julie, Jeff, Admin Tet, Felisa, Betty, Annie, Pereira, Troy, Michael, Ryaveth, Huzik River Ben, Anna Mary, and admin. Oh, I got you already. Okay, great. You know, it's funny, Brenda, you say 24 degrees and I think Celsius. I'm like, oh, 24 degrees, huh? Like, perfect. But for those of you anywhere other than in America, other than the United States, I should say, that means it's freezing. 24 degrees is below 0 Celsius. So, yeah, popsicle stick time. Yeah, please listen to what Harrison's saying. Some good advice over there in the chat. Okay, so look, tonight we finished Psalm 18. We're going to finish it. Woo! Bezrat Hashem. It's going to be finito. And next week, we've got another psalm lined up per request from the Greek scholar that's in our chat. So from a Jewish brother, Jacob, who's a Greek scholar also, he requested a certain psalm, so we're going to do that one next week, the one he requested. So we're stacked up and ready to keep rolling into another psalm. Ooh, 17 over there in Cambridge, right, Riveth? Nice. Almost, yeah, pretty much a little worse than Brenda's got it. Well, you know, the weather in UK is always wonderful. I've been there enough to realize you don't go to the UK for the weather. You go there for the wit, the witty comments in line at the tea shop. Yeah, I'll tell you in the chat if you remind me, Julie, in the Telegram chat, okay? Because I don't remember. He requested, I said sure, and I haven't looked at it really since, so. Ooh, yeah, -11 centigrade where Ben's at. All right, I'm just going to check real quick. What is it here in the EEM, here in the islands? Local weather. Let's just see. .23 centigrade here. So what is that Fahrenheit? Let's see, what is that? 74 degrees Fahrenheit. Ah! It's like perfect, right? That's like what you'd set your air conditioner on, like 74, 72, something like that. And I have totally become a Filipino. I'm totally Filipinized. When I first came here, this time of year, I'd be walking around in my apartment, like with my shirt off and like, woo, weather's great, you know, shorts and shirt off. And now I'm like, oh. Last night I put on a long sleeve shirt, long pants. Just like, 80 in Zamboanga. Wow. A little bit warmer for you guys over there. Riveth says, at least Cambridge is very dry and sunny, if not warm. All the stuff that's pleasant for the skin. Yeah, Huzik River Bend seems to win on the war of the temperatures. If you call that winning. Oh, I forgot to turn the stream rated down. We're still on HD tonight, because I want to play it safe. Anyway, those of you with TVs that like to watch on big TVs, please let me know if the quality seems the same as when I broadcast. I shouldn't have told you, right? As when I broadcast in 4K. I'm just curious if the quality still looks the same to you. YouTube's like complaining, hey, you're sending us way too fast. We don't need this much data. Yeah, Minnesota wins over there. Steven Lindstrom, minus 17 in Minnesota. Ouch. Celsius. Nice. He adjusted it for the world. I don't miss the winter. There's a lot of things I miss from the West, but winter is... Okay, I miss the snow sometimes. Seeing the snow is nice, but... Yeah. All right, let's get started. I'm just going to say a real quick prayer. אבינו מלכנו כן רצון כי אנחנו יכולים ללמוד טוב בעיניך הלילה הזאת. תשלח נא עלינו את רוחך. אנחנו רוצים לראות את פניך, אדוני. כן רצון כי בחיינו נעשה את כל מצוות כרצונך. לא לנו ולך יהיה כל הכבוד. לכל הדברים האלה אנחנו נברכך בזכות ישוע המשיח. All right. Just normal kind of prayer, praying that his spirit would be upon us, that we would study well in his sight, and that all of us in our days would be able to learn to keep his mitzvot perfectly by his will, by the merit of Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. Shalom mentatasasin. Great. All right. So here's the plan tonight. We only have 3 verses. That shouldn't... If we get through those verses quickly, then I'm thinking we'll continue our Birkat HaMazon. Because the last verse in this psalm is actually in the Birkat HaMazon, the blessing, the grace after meals. But the grace after meals is kind of long, so I'm going to feel it out. I'm not promising we're going to do it. I just want to see what things are feeling like. And I don't want to rush through the psalm to finish the psalm too, just to get done to do the other thing. I could always do the other thing as a separate video if you want. But I do highly recommend, if you haven't learned it, if you don't do it, it's a real fun thing to do, especially in groups. Fast and furious, praying it. Everybody's laughing and stuff. It's really, it's good Yiddishkeit. All right. So let's get to our psalm. There we are. Tonight we are in Hebrew immersion, Psalm 18, verse 49 to the end. That's 49 to 51. So just 3 verses, but it is an old psalm. Oops, sorry. It is an old psalm. Uh-oh, I'm in the void now. It is a bit old. Oh, I see. I accidentally killed my presentation. Dirk. There we go. It is a little old, and so sometimes that can make for some weird stuff. Okay, so make sure my PowerPoint's up so I can click to draw and all that stuff. All right, so let's get started. So notice over here we've got verse Mem, that's 40, Tet, that's 49, right? Okay, so when you see that on the left like that, that means scan to the right until you come to this guy here, the Sof Pasuk marker. I'll highlight that fella. Okay, and that tells you where the verse starts. If it happened that you were scanning the whole line and you never came across it, then that means the verse starts right there, right here on the right side. Boop, there. But since we have a Sof Pasuk there, we've got that guy, that's where the verse starts, okay? Same thing if the verse marker actually was on the right. If it said 49 over here, same thing. You look for where the Sof Pasuk is, and then that's where your verse starts. Sometimes you have short verses, so you'll have more than one of these. You'll have 2 of these in a verse, okay? And then it will put like 49 and 50, they'll be crunched close together. So you scan for the first one, and then you scan for the second one. So you still might have a run-on from the previous verse. Okay? All right. Let's get into it. Sometimes you see me moving around and clicking stuff. What I'm doing is, when I click a certain thing, my video software, it puts like a red barrier around where my camera's at, and there's some other red lines, and sometimes it interferes with the text, so I got to navigate my mouse back through the various monitors to get to the right monitor, so I can turn that off so it's not a distraction. So if you're wondering, or sometimes I look over here, this is the same thing as over here, except this is a tablet, and it's just showing basically everything except for the Hebrew literacy and me. So sometimes I glance down there, or I want to make sure that the mouse pointer's down there so you can see what I'm pointing at. Sometimes it's up here, and I think it's down there. So I see it. Why can't you see it? But it's actually over the screen on this one, so I have to make sure to pull it back down there. So if you're wondering why I look back and forth, and then over here, this is the actual PowerPoint controls taking up the whole screen in front of me, and over here are you guys on a full window with the live chat and the various statistics from YouTube Studio. So that's what's happening, if you're curious about that. Harrison's having a sound problem. Somebody please... Okay, it's fine for Rayavitz. So I think that's you, Achi. That's your internet. Sorry. Mabuhay! My friend in Korea, whenever he would visit here, if something went wrong, he'd say, Mabuhay! He lives in Korea. He's kind of spoiled, right? Everything just works in Korea. Samsung and all that stuff. Too many toys, Betty says. It's grown over time. Well, look, this monitor here was a gift. It's an old HD monitor, but works for what I need it for, right? So that was a gift that one of our congregants sent me, and I do appreciate it. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, And then this one here, and I'm looking right here, there's a little flat one here, a 15-inch one. This is what I purchased from one of our viewers in the States, gave a gift certificate, and so I was able to buy that and had that shipped here. And then this one down here, this is a tablet. And then there's the laptop, right? So it seems fancy schmancy, but it's really kind of more like Frankensteinish. But I'm happy for it. I'm very grateful that we can do this, yeah? And then the studio, the soundproofing was donated by one of our Kahal members, as was the carpet. And the SLR camera is a donation as well, right? Someone had that used but taken very well care of, and so we got that. The lights were donated. Well, the funds were donated for that. So, yeah, Baruch Hashem, it's all, yeah. This I bought myself, the soundproof, the special microphone, yeah, on eBay in the States. Had it shipped. So if you've watched our videos on this channel, you can go back and you can watch some stuff from a few years ago. And you'll see the improvement over time, right? You've got like dogs barking outside, and sometimes the audio's echoey, and just over. And then eventually I show up, hi, I'm here, but it's just like a square in the corner or something, right? And now we've got the effect going on, woo! So, all right. So Baruch Hashem, we're improving. By the way, I've got 2 words of the day for you guys ready to go out tonight. I just have to finish subtitling them. I'm experimenting with something. It's 1 word of the day, but since we're only allowed 60 seconds, I made a part 1 and a part 2, right? So in the part 1, I tell you the meaning of the word, and I give a very short example that we've had before, a very short verse from a psalm, but a powerful verse. And then that video is going to link to the next one, like suggest the next one. And the next one, it's the same word, but with a different Bible verse from Joshua, a bit longer, right? For those who want to kind of see the word used in more places. I'm kind of feeling out how that goes. If people really like it, I might start doing like 3 Bible examples, right? And you can just watch the first one. If that's good enough, then fine. Especially words that get nuanced in different ways. I'm not promising. This is bli neder, okay? We're not making a vow here. But if that helps people and people really like seeing, the vocabulary word in different verses used in different ways or different nuance coming out, then that might be. I just found out something interesting that I never knew before about the word nefesh. And Raphael knows. You're the first one to know if you read our chat, my response to your chat. Nefesh has another meaning to add to all the stuff I've shared with you guys, right? So we got nefesh can mean soul, life force. It can mean a human corpse, like a cadaver, a human cadaver. It can mean throat, right, or neck. It can mean appetite. In very rare usages in old language and wisdom literature, it can mean imagination, right? Like imaginative goal, something more like that. And I found out recently in Ibn Ezra's commentary on Yeshayahu, that there's a I can't remember the verse I was looking at. Chapter 3, I think, or maybe I think somewhere in chapter 3, or it might be chapter 4. There's this phrase batei nefesh, and I always thought that meant like a beautiful ornamented box for perfume, right? I don't remember where I learned that, but I thought that's what it meant, like beautiful perfume ornamented boxes, right? So like the women would have, the wealthy women of Jerusalem would have. But Ibn Ezra says it's an ornament that would go on the breasts of the woman, and that nephesh can mean breast. So I didn't know that. So we get to add another weird, rare nuance to nephesh. It's like it keeps growing. So anyway, there's one. Took me years and years to find that one out, and you get it for free already. So thank you, Ibn Ezra. So, all right. Okay, continuing on. Yeah, it's cool, right? Oh, okay, great. Harrison likes the idea. Good. Julie says, I can hear the roosters in the old videos. Yeah, some of them when I would edit. I don't know if you've ever seen, sometimes I put an animated rooster there, like timed when the rooster, it shows or sometimes there'll be a dog cartoon barking while the dog's barking. That's just over there. So I'm in a small room here in kind of a pseudo basement, like it's halfway underground. And we've got sound. This was quite an effort. We put soundproofing on every wall because it used to echo so terribly in here. It was impossible it was better to have the rooster noises and the kids on the street shouting and the barking and all that stuff. So I'm excited. Maybe sometime I'll send a video of the studio and show you guys. I think I need to clean it up a bit first, You'll see like my homemade solar battery sitting over on one table, and stuff, and some of the other stuff that's in here, kind of like a madman's lab or something. Cables all over the place. All right, so here we go. Verse 49. Mefalati me oyavai af min kamai teromamni. Okay, that's enough. Okay. Mefalati. So this is an interesting word. So mefalati, the basic meaning of this verb. So you should be able to identify the root letters right away. Boom. You see a mem stuck on the bottom, on the front. That happens a lot, right? That's an addition. Okay. Some suffix on the end. That's an addition. So our root letters are pe, lamed, tet. Okay. And falat is like to escape, to go out. In the Piel form, the intensive form, which is what we have here. Remember, when you have three root letters, which almost every verb has three root letters in Hebrew, if the second letter is doubled, that means it's got a strong dot in there, a strong dagesh in there, like we have here. I think I want to be over there. Let's make Rayavith happy. There we go. Like a dalek. Okay. See, so here we have first root letter is the pei. Second is the lamed, third is the tet, right? Not matet, but tet. And then you see with the third one, we've got a dot there right above my finger. Sorry if you're just listening to the podcast, but you can imagine, right? So that's telling us this is the Piel binyan, the intensive form of binyan. Oh, and I almost forgot to put our PayPal up over in the chat. If you'd like to send a donation, you can do it here on Hebrew Literacy or PayPal. I'm getting more comfortable asking for money now. Used to, oh no, surely Hashem will tell them. And then I kind of learned my lesson. Oh, sages say you're not supposed to count on a miracle, right? So, okay. So he'll send it sometimes if you need it, but don't count on it. Hebrew Literacy. All right. So there it is. If you'd like to send on PayPal, you can send to paypal.me/Hebrew Literacy or subscribe here to our patreon.com/Hebrew Literacy. Either one. If you want to set up monthly payments on PayPal instead, let me know and I can make a custom button for you so you can do that. It's easier to do here, and it's just greatly appreciated. This ministry does survive on donations and tithes and all that good stuff. So we are an outgrowth from Congregation Simchat Hashem here in the Philippines. So this is a Simchat Hashem sponsored ministry event. This was originally for them. For you guys know who you are here. And then other people came and got interested. So, okay, cool. We kind of started doing this because of COVID. We started putting the teachings online and stuff. Just kind of made it easier for people to have access to it. Now, Baruch Hashem, we're growing, so I appreciate all the prayers. So anyway, so the second letter is intense. That means it's PL, right? You've got two of those letters there. This means there's two lameds. It's pei, lamed, tet. The scribes, you're writing on expensive parchment, animal skin, right? Parchment, and you don't. Why waste the space? We're gonna put a dot there if it's two of them. Okay. Oh yeah, maybe admin Tet or any admin could put up the Amazon link. That's really helpful for helping us to get equipment, and even sometimes we get vitamins for my family or something. We get it in from Amazon. It's very useful, and of course, books like this one. Oh, look, it's kind of see-through, cool because the green. I love it. I'm like a little kid. I never get bored with the green screen stuff. I just think it's so hilarious. Like if you missed the floating head episode, check that out. We had a floating head episode where a head and arms were teaching. Yeah, so if you want to give a gift certificate on Amazon, that's also very appreciated. If that's easier for you to do it with your credit card or debit card or whatever, just get an e-gift certificate, and you can either just give me the code in the chat or you can send it to my email. And the email, which, by the way, don't send me emails for communication. I never check it, like once a week. So if you do send a gift certificate, you'll probably need to let me know. I'm just so... Chat is the new email. Can you imagine? Email's dead now in my mind. So here, I'm putting my email up. There it is in the chat. It's jeremiah@hebrewliteracy.com, and I'll get it if you send it over there. Yeah? Okay. All right, so mefalati, this is a PL participle for those of you who care about those kind of terms. And the PL here, PL usually makes a more intensive meaning of the root, right? Which sometimes means it's causative, like Hiphil. And so here, the causative meaning is to bring out, like to bring somebody out of a certain situation or location. In other words, to save, to rescue, right? So mefalati is the one who saves me, the one who brings me out, right? And you can see we have a little suffix here. Let me just mark it on the end. Yeah, I'm not going to focus on if we're going to get to the grace after meals or not. Let's just stick with the flow of the teaching, and if we get there, we do. If not, that's a Psalms night. That's the main point, right? Okay. So the E at the end, right? You guys should recognize this by now. I usually say E. E. There's a little verbal cue for the auditory learners. E. Okay. That means I, me, my, right? Mefalet would then be one who is saving, one who is bringing out. So, who brings out me, okay? Bringing out me. Right, with like the floating head. I think it was it Pei? Was it Pei or Gary? Actually, I'm sorry if I'm giving the wrong credit. Someone recommended getting a special colored cup, so I'd be like drinking the word. We're looking for a cup like that. I like that idea. Because even if I hold it here, it's going to see through me. You're going to see the Hebrew. So the cup will have like Hebrew. It'll be like made of Hebrew. It'll be so cool. Oh, I also want to get a cup with a special print on it. I want to get a jihadi tears cup, so I can be drinking jihadi tears, the tears of the practitioners of the religion of peace. I think that'd be nice. Oh, it's not original. I don't know if it's jihadi tears. It's something like that. I saw a rabbi with one of these. So, what's his name? He's an Orthodox rabbi in the UK. Okay, when I do it, I'll give credit to the guy who had the idea. So, I saw him doing it on a podcast. I'm like, what? I must have that. Oh, yeah, what's with the likes? We got a decent amount of concurrent views, but nobody likes me. All right, mefalati, who brings me out, literally is what it's saying. And it's actually nice, even though you could translate this saves me, rescues me, like rescue is probably better. Still, it's nice to be aware of the nuanced difference of the verb or the verbal root in Hebrew. Because, and we can't always translate it, right? When you're going through, especially with poetry, my goodness, how do you translate poetry? Could you imagine in great works of literature? I never understood how they translate Shakespeare into like Russian and these other I'm like, why bother? I mean, or to be fair, Pushkina, Как можно человек переводить Pushkina на другом языке, right? To translate this very famous Russian poet into other languages, it's going to lose something. The character of the poetry, it's like someone who's a master of the language is someone who's doing the great and wonderful works of poetry, right? So Psalms, so much. I hope you guys are starting to really see this and appreciate this. Even when we translate word for word, like whatever translation you see, or it's close enough, right? Still, there's the feeling of the words, right? Like you remember we went through recently all the different types of enemies, right? There's Oyev enemy, which we have right here. And then there's like Kamai, those who stand against me, right? And then there's, there's all these different, there's Sonai, also means my enemies, but it's those who hate me, right? So you have this kind of different feeling. Even if we might translate, or my adversaries, Metzorai, which is those people who specifically watch, they're waiting for something bad to happen to me so they can gleefully rejoice right? So you can't always bring that across. But you, as the lover of Hebrew, you will appreciate it. Even if you can't always bring it across in a translation, if you have a chance to explain to people what you're enjoying, why it's so beautiful, why it's so delightful, you can say, well, what's happening, even though all these words mean like enemy, and we have synonyms in English too, right? But the nuance of the particular word being used really makes a difference. And that's where you'll see some of the mastery of the word choice from the psalmist. Ryervis says word plays can translate sometimes between related languages, but typically not. Yeah, right. If you have a cognate language or something, then right. Like this is actually one of the flaws, one of the fallacies in thinking of the Aramaic primacists. So for those of you who you like the Peshitta, for example, right, the late Aramaic, the Syriac translation of the New Testament, there are some people who are so certain that predates the Greek, right, predates the Jewish Greek. And I just want to say that it doesn't. The vast majority of scholarships believe that the Greek is older. We can even show where, if you guys haven't watched my video, I've got a video on this channel. Just search for Did Yeshua Speak Greek? And I basically proved through the language that he's using, the word plays and stuff, that work in Greek, but they don't work in Aramaic, they don't work in Hebrew, etc., that at least when he's speaking to Nicodemus, he's speaking to him in Jewish Greek, right, or so-called Palestinian Greek, Greek of Israel, right, the Israeli Greek. And I brought that up for a reason. Oh, yeah. And so but some of the proofs that Aramaic primacists try to use are that there are some nice word plays elsewhere that work in Aramaic, right, that seem to kind of get broken in Greek. But that's because most of the time he's teaching in Hebrew, and sometimes he might be teaching in Galilean Aramaic, this other dialect or whatever. So, yeah, there's that. So don't get hoodwinked just because there's a wordplay that works in Aramaic that, oh, wow, it must be Syriac. No, it probably was Hebrew or Jewish Aramaic or Galilean Aramaic, one of these dialects, not Syriac, not the Peshitta Aramaic. There's nothing in Israel from that time. I think there's one grave from like an official from another country, a female, that's got a Syriac, which is late Aramaic engraving. That's a different dialect. That is not ours, right? That's from the later Christian community up in Edessa. That's where that comes from. All right, it's not really a Jewish thing. There's so much. So anyway, so the point is, you will see the wordplay sometimes just by reconstructing it, like Ryervith is saying, into any Semitic language. A lot of times they borrow. You'll have the same root crossing over into one language from the other. Like I can open up the Quran and look at the Quran and understand about a third of the words because there's about one third of them are very similar to the words we have in Hebrew, right? Which means I'm basically totally lost. Understanding a third is not understanding really much of anything. So, let's see. Harrison says, Palestine just passing through. Troy said, I saw a post on IG that Quran mentions Israel 43 times but does not mention You're on to something. I think you're on to something there. Yes. Well, Quran also says that Allah has given the land of Israel to the, what do they call it? The Bani Israel, right? The Bani Israel. Well, who's that? Okay, so it actually even affirms that it's our land, So you got to really do some mental bit. You have to really twist your own religion to get into the mindset that it's not the land of the Jews, right? So, have you ever seen a map of Palestine before 1948? It's really interesting. And it goes way into Jordan. Like before the British broke up and said, okay, this is going to be Jordan, this is going to be Syria, kind of invented these new countries, these new lands, right? So it's kind of interesting. So nobody's complaining like, hey, we want this back. How come you don't want it back from Jordan? You want that big old chunk in Jordan. You don't want that? Why not? Because we don't have it. That's why it's just, you know why it is. Sandy says, is Begad Kafat originally Hebrew grammar or is it borrowed from Aramaic? Oh, I don't know. That's an interesting question. Because we have the same rules in Jewish Aramaic. Begad Kafat applies also. Totally applies in the Targumim and in Gemara and such. So that's a great question. Yeah, I'm going to venture a guess. You might be right. That might be from Aramaic, the actual mnemonic originally. Yeah. I've never read anything about it, so if anybody knows, please let us know. Or if you're watching this later, leave it in the comments down below. I'd love to learn about that. Raphael says there are Greek terms in the Peshitta. Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yep, you have borrowed, even in Mishnaic Hebrew, we have like Paracletus. This becomes a Hebrew word, meaning an advocate, like an attorney. Yeah, there's a lot of. See, in that time period, Jewish Greek, it was owned by us. Nobody was like embarrassed that, you're writing something scholarly in Jewish Greek or discussing something with the learned of Alexandria or something like this. It's only as a reaction to the birth of Christianity, where many of the Christian monks who would argue with Jews about scriptures, they would lean on the Septuagint because they knew Greek, but they didn't know the Hebrew. And so it was kind of like a defense mechanism to just say, okay, you know what? Once we were kicked out of the land, you know what? Forget this Greek stuff. We're just going full-on Hebrew Aramaic only. And the Septuagint was kind of lost. It was kind of lost to the Jewish community until maybe the last century or so. Jewish scholars will oftentimes refer to the Septuagint. So if you hear some counter-missionary talking about, it's Septuagint, we don't trust that, that's not true. That's not, you can, if you give me any Jewish scholar worth his salts in the modern era, and they'll have some paper out there where they're referencing Septuagint to make their point on something. So this is a fantasy that like Tovia Singer and people like that, they just put out. They just have absolute fantasy that Septuagint is not trusted by Jewish scholarship. It is. Aaron Horvitz says, doesn't Eastern Church use Peshitta rather than Greek? I think the Syrian Eastern Church does, but I don't think all of them. Yeah, so the Syrian church, the Assyrian, they prefer to call Assyrian. The Assyrians do, which isn't just Christians from Syria, it's also from some other regions in there, right? Yeah, but the Armenians don't, right? And, yeah. Raphael says Greek scrolls are even accepted as kosher. That's right. In fact, the Talmud in tractate Soferim says that when you read your Torah portion, you're supposed to read it in the Hebrew, right? And you're also supposed to read in translation. And it gives an example of two translations that are, quote, authorized by the sages. You know what they are? It's the Targumim in Aramaic and the Septuagint in Greek. So those are the two authorized. So if you're reading in English, okay. So you've got the sages in the Talmud saying, "Hey, we dig the Septuagint." So, yeah. Okay. Good chat. Let's continue. So meflati, my bringer out, my rescuer, or who rescues me. Usually you would expect a ha on here, but we don't need it because the e at the end, and also poetry. Me oyavai. So me, you guys know me. That is our contracting min, right? Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, right? So min. Forgive me, I am writing on a vertical screen here. So min, meaning from. And then that noon is going to assimilate, right? Meaning, so here we've got our mem, okay? And he tries to put a dot in the aleph there. But Aleph says, rejected. You remember, what's that movie? Jurassic Park. Oh my gosh, that movie. I liked it, but their representation of Unix systems, or it just was so... You remember the little girl? She's like, this is a Unix system. I know this. And it's like all 3D, flying through. Okay, sorry. Little joke for the computer nerds there. Okay, so the Aleph doesn't take a dagesh. So he gets spit out. And that's where we get this. I'm going to color code it for you. Let's use a different color. Let's try light green maybe. No, let's make it much more. Let's do red. Okay. So that guy comes down. Boop, boop, boop. And that's this. Think of it as the second dot and the two dots down here. Okay, I kind of blew it there. I'll just underline it instead. You know what? Let's zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay. So it's... not the first dot, the second one. I can't color it when it's zoomed like this, so sorry. So up above, we had min, right, with the single dot, right? And now what's happening, we We have one dot under here. That's the first one. That's not supposed to have the red underline, sorry. And we tried to put the nun inside the aleph. It's rejected. It comes down, and that's our second dot. This is not really what's happening, but this is I think it's a good mnemonic to understand, because who really cares if you know all the grammatical terms? You just want to see the patterns, recognize what's happening. That's the point of grammar anyway, is so that your brain recognizes what's happening. You don't want to be like years from now when you're reading through the Torah or something thinking, okay, wait, this is Piel, but you just want to be reading, right, and understanding, because your brain is recognizing the pattern. So sometimes we kind of skip the terms for everything and just get to the pattern. So that's the pattern. So that's why the two dots here. Usually we'd have one dot and there'd be that dot, the dagesh, inside the next letter. But since aleph rejects it, you can't have two alephs in a row, that it comes down. Boom. Okay. Oh yeah, Raphael says Chazal are turning over in their graves. Right. People are hating on the Greek. Julie says, what did the mem on the root of the first word mean? It wasn't. Okay, you're right. Okay, so she's asking about this mem. This mem is not min, it's not from. This is a preformative. It's part of forming the root. So in this case, when you have what's called a Piel, that's the intensified. If you remember, if you've seen the menorah video, right? It's the second one. You've got call, which is the basic, and then the next branch of the menorah, that's the Piel, the intensive meaning, right? Or sometimes causative, but intensive. If you want to make a participle from that, or I'm sorry to use these terms, like a gerund in English, then, or a verbal adjective, depending on, prichastya. If you want to do that, then the pattern is usually there's a mem in front of it, right? And so the model word for this is medaber, right? So diber is he spoke. Medaber is like a speaking man, right? Ish medaber, a speaking man. Or you could say ani medaber, I, a speaking one, which is how we say I speak, right? I speak, whatever. Pick your language you want to say that you speak. So it'd be mefalet. This would be the way to modify, just like I'm doing it, or he's doing it, or any male object is doing it. But we put the suffix on the end, e, so it literally means like my rescuing one. The rescuing one of e, right? Of e. That's kind of what's happening there. Okay? So this mem is different than what I mentioned before. When you see a noun, I think this is what Julie's getting on about. When you see a noun, it's got a mem in the front, and I've told you, if you recognize the verb and you're not sure why the mem's there, then maybe it's the object that verb is using, or the occupation. That still works for here, because usually this is like an occupation. Like a mefalet is a rescuer. It's a bringer-outer, you see? So it still works. You can see how a lot of those nouns were formed by doing this form of the verb first. And then over time, it was just used enough that it became a noun. It became a thing. Okay? Yeah, good. Good question. Nice. Okay. All right. There we are. See, I got to do my thing now. I've got for some reason, it's got the red thing all around the camera. It's just going through the Hebrew stuff. I can't see it. Okay. From, oyev is an enemy. And then the I at the end, that yod at the end, that reminds you it's my. It's my, right? My. This. And generally speaking, when you have an E at the end, oh, I drew over the yod. That was too bad. E. That's like a singular thing, right? Like my horse. Sus means horse. Susi, my horse. Not a sissy, but a susi. Or ki in Tagalog. Right? So Filipinos, think of your ki as like a little horse. Now you know the word for horse. My horse. That belongs to you. Susi. But if you say I, susai, or even lengthen with the comments. Okay, either of those. That means my horses. So the yod is still my, but the e means my singular and the I is my plural. So for example, like Adon is Lord. Adoni is what you'd call a human, right? A human. You'd say, my Lord, right? Like someone is serving the master of the house. Adoni, my Lord, right? But when you're talking about Hashem, we say Adonai. Adonai. It's got this bottom. It's my Lord's, technically. He's getting like a plural majesty thing happening there. Okay. Any comments or questions? Over 40 minutes. Wow. Okay, usually we go an hour and some. Okay, we're probably not going to do the Birkat HaChamazon. We've been having too much fun. Okay, check out this next word. You can still ask questions, but I'm going to push through. Af. This is not what you think it is. Okay? This isn't af meaning nostril, and it's not af meaning when. Okay? This is a very old af that they actually have in Ugaritic. Very old, so this is very old language. And what's interesting is this very psalm, we see it later in 2 Samuel, right? In an updated form. I was telling you that I believe the language has been updated in those days in 2 Samuel, right? And this is like the original. This is the original recipe, old language. 2 Samuel, I think it's a scribe updated it to make it so people could understand, right? He decided to update it. And he probably thought it's okay. We have the original over there and, collected in Tehillim anyway, right? Something like this. So, off, the way that it translates, or that the way that it works over in 2 Samuel, it's a vav. It's just a vav. It's a u in front of the min. So that means and. It's a connector. And this is how it works in Ugaritic. So this guy here, right here, it actually is like a wow, like a vav. It means and or but, etc. Very rare. Very rare. This is just more evidence of the age of this psalm. And it's interesting because the examples that we have from Ugaritic are from the late Bronze Age, right? And that's a little bit before King David lived, right? King David lived around 1000 BC or BCE, like that, right? So the timing works. Again, Hebrew is not Ugaritic, but it makes sense. They've got it like a century and a half before. Well, probably later too, but we have evidence of it from that time period, so it makes a lot of sense that it exists here. So off and min. Okay, we've got our full min, the green one up above, right? Min from. I'm just going to point with a pointer. Kamai. Kamai. These are kums, someone who stands up. Again, this is another participle form. Who stands up, I against me. Or my stand-uppers. It's not a good thing. It's not like he's a stand-up guy. It's another word for enemies. As the king, you could imagine, those are standing up in rebellion, right? They would be Kamaiv, his enemies. Kamai when the king is speaking. The kum of I. This one here, the plural, right? If there's just one, then it'd be different. You just have E at the end. Okay, someone give me a shalom or something in the chat so I can be sure that everything is okay with you guys. Okay, great. Raphael wrote, is that a recent discovery? Are there other older translations that translate off differently? I mean, recent in the realm of biblical archaeology and biblical linguistics, but really this is the fruit from the discovery in 1929 of the ancient language of Ugaritic. That's what this is. So, yeah, this has been known for a while, and there's scholarly articles out there on it and stuff. And as usual, I learned about it in, I can't remember if I learned this one from Dahoud or I learned it from the Ugaritic class I took from Heiser or not. But yeah, if you study Ugaritic, you'll learn this, or you can look through an Ugaritic dictionary and you'll see. So we've known about this probably for the last, just because they discovered 1929, everything didn't come out yet. Like the 50s, a lot of stuff came out in the 50s. They started updating dictionaries. Yeah, but some of the Ugaritic terms, the dictionaries don't always absorb it. It doesn't always get into the dictionary, right? So if you have a verse that looks really weird, then you can check sometimes. You could check out an Ugaritic dictionary or ask me, I can look for you. I've got a few of them, and we can look it up and see, and there might be some nuance there. You might have found a gem. Wow, this verse is so weird. It's so awkward. I don't understand it. We looked. What used to happen before the discovery of Ugaritic, scholars would look to Akkadian. That was like the heavy hitter. It's got to be Akkadian because Akkadian was the lingua franca for a long time. It's understood that in Middle Egyptian, that dignitaries in Egypt, princes in Egypt, they would have learned Akkadian for foreign correspondence, right? You write to a Hittite, you're not going to write to him in his language. You'll send him an Akkadian letter, usually, right? Something like that. So, but now Ugaritic is king now. Ugaritic is king. Yeah. Okay, so that's a good question. Yeah, a lot. Also, this is again a problem if you're using like Blue Letter Bible, which I know I've got a video how to use it. It's a great resource. Or you're using the lexicon that my rabbi first suggested to me to use years ago, the Gesenius. Great lexicon, great. But when you want to go deeper, it's good to invest in one of those that has a lot of the Ugaritic scholarship and discoveries absorbed, like HALOT, one of these more modern, or even Klein's. Not Klein's, Kleins, Rabbi Dr. Klein's, not Dr. Klein, Clines. That one has no Ugaritic insight in it at all, but it's still great. It's just a different ball of wax. Okay, so, and min from Kamai, my enemies, meaning those who stood up against me, Teromameni. If Dr. Dever is in the house, here you have a nice Polel form. I know he likes those weird binyanim. So the tav reminds us of ata, you, and then rom, right? And this is very interesting because kum is to like get up, to stand up, and rom also can be used this way. So there's a little bit of artistry happening by the psalmist saying, Kamai teromameni, right? Okay. But from my enemies, and then in nice Hebrew parallelism with meflati, you brought me out, right? There's a motion involved, even though you can say rescue, but the Hebrew feels like there's a motion. You brought me out of like a mess, right? You threw me a rope and I climbed out or something. And here we have, so that was from me oyavai, my enemies, general word for enemies, from the word ayav, to be hostile, right? So from my hostiles, right? Hostiles against me, like a military man might say, how many hostiles there are, right? That's oyavim. Technically, it's more like hostiles. And now we have in parallel with hostiles, we've got kamai, enemies again, but those who stood up against me, like they're going against my power, my authority. And now in parallel with, you brought me out, you rescued me, teromameni, you bring up me. Okay, so more of that motion out of there. Now it's like just in general out, now specific up. You bring me out. It's kind of, this word can mean exalted even. You've exalted me. May, we have another min, right? The aleph is rejecting the dagesh, so may from ish Hamas. From Hamas! You've saved me from Hamas. My, how history repeats itself. Oh, excellent example. Tet mentions the noun teruma, which is from this verb also. A teruma offering, right? A tribute offering. Exactly. Okay. I need to make myself smaller. I must decrease. So the word, just kidding. There we go. So Hamas means like violent or unjust. In this case, it's probably like violent. Tacileni. So here we have a pei noon verb. The noon has assimilated. So let me just, I won't write it. I won't write it right now. You should be getting used to this. So the verb is natsal. Noon, and that's what's the dot inside of the tzadi. The noon went inside. And then tzadi, and then lamed, and then look, there's a yod jammed in there before the third root letter. What does that tell you? That tells you it's the Hiphil causative binyan, the causative. Oh, I got to share, Debs had an interesting mnemonic for Hiphil. She said, okay, I'm going to draw it. This is good. Hope she doesn't mind that I'm sharing. At least I'm giving credit, right? So, okay. So, she said, when you hear, it's the Hiphil of ear. Like to cause to ear. And it's funny because that actually works in Hebrew too, because in Hebrew, ozen means ear. That's ear. But ha'azin means like listen. So to give ear. We have the famous Torah portion, ha'azinu, give ear, listen. Okay. I don't like being down here. I want to move. Okay, good. Oh no, come back, what are you doing? No, not yet. Okay. So natsal is to snatch up. And this is to cause to be snatched up, which is another way to say rescue. So the tav is you, natsal ni. You rescue me. Yeah, like Gary says, lend me your ears. Yep. Okay. And I've read somewhere, I can't remember the scholar, I actually have more than one place, that this verb actually is a back formation from ozen, right? That it actually is like give ear. Right? So, okay, verse noon, that's 50. Al-kain. Al-kain means therefore. Therefore, Odcha vagoyim yod-he, wow-he. Odcha, I will give todah. I will thank cha, the aleph is I I will thank cha. I will thank you. Va, the bait means among or in. The a is the footprint from hal, meaning the goyim, the nations. Oh, yod hey, wow hey. Oh, Adonai. Oh, Hashem. Okay, I'm going to change to the next screen in just a moment. Maybe if you're note takers, I'll give you just a couple seconds to catch up. You can always watch the video again. Right? Changing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Sorry, that was for Riveth. Okay. Okay, continuing. Uleshimcha azamera. Yes, Vicky, very good. Like modeh or moda ani lefanecha. I'm grateful before you, O Lord. What's happening? Why are you going back? What happened? I didn't cook anything. That was funny. It's got a mind of its own. Ule, and, le, to, or for. Shem means name. This changes to shim because of the suffix. Name of cha. And for your name, or to your name. Ah, that's I. Will zimer, which means make music, to will make music. And then the hey at the end is like makes it stronger. This is a cohortative or a emphatic hey, depending on which grammarian you look at. So, azamera, let me make music. Ule, so I'm going to give thanks to you. Ule shimcha, and to your name. Azamera, let me make music. And what's very interesting is if you look at our previous slide, which is the previous half of the verse, right? What did he say? Al-kain, sorry, my pointer's in the wrong place. Al-kain, therefore, odecha, I will thank cha you, vagoim among the nations. And look, there's the tetragrammaton with no vowels. Interesting, right? No vowels. O Hashem. Yod hey, wow hey. When we see it with no vowels, we still say Adonai, but it's important to understand that's actually Hashem. The name is actually there. Not just a scribal correction so people don't confuse like Adonai with Baal or Elohim with, or El with Elu or something like this. And to your name, which we just saw his name, Yod He Waw He, Azamecha, let me make music. Sandy says, like modern Hebrew, did the ancient meaning of Goyim ever mean Gentiles? Yes. It has two meanings. So many of the Hebrew words I've been sharing with you guys, they have at least two different nuanced meanings, right? So oftentimes a word has a meaning when it's by itself. By itself, for example, mitzvah. Mitzvah by itself means commandment. And mitzvot are any of the commandments, right? No matter what this, it could be, it could be one of the Aseret Debarot, the 10 Commandments, or it could be, some very minor, the pikudim about, little specifics about being careful with a border boundary or something. They're all mitzvot when that word is by itself. But when we take other words that are legal language, other kinds of commands like mishpatim, right? The commandments that the Sanhedrin are supposed to pass down, right? Their interpretations of God's law, the mishpatim, right? The religious court's judgments, right? Or the chukot and chukim, the commandments that we don't know why he's telling us to do this thing, like shatnez is a mystery, right? And then you put mitzvot next to one of these other words. Now the nuance is different. Now a mitzvah is not just any commandment. Now it's a commandment that God has given us the reason for it, right? So chukot umitzvot, commandments that we don't know why, we don't know the effect of breaking it, we don't know what it does to us, and mitzvot, like kibet et avicha v'et imecha, honor your father and mother. Why? Leman yarichud yamecha al adamah, so your days will be lengthened on the land, asher nispati la'avotecha, which I promised to your ancestors, right? So we have the reason, it's a mitzvah. So the nuance changes. Same with goyim. Goyim, when it's by itself, usually the meaning is just nations, right? Like lo yisagoy el goy charev lo yimadu milchama from Yeshua, from the prophet says, a nation will not make war against nation again, right? They won't lift up a sword against each other anymore, right? Just a nation. That means Israel won't do it. That means also the other nations won't do it, right? Any nation. A general blanket term for any kind of nation. Doesn't matter if it's the nation that God formed and made the pact with, the Aidut, or if it's any other nation, right? But when we're talking about Bnei Israel, the Goyim, now you've mentioned the children of Israel. Now it means Gentiles. Goyim means Gentiles then. It means the other, right? The others. Yeah. So, now sometimes people get confused because in Yiddish, Goy does just mean non-Jew, right? It comes, so, and I don't know what it's like in Ladino or any of the other Jewish languages, but so you do have kind of a modernization of the term. But yeah, in biblical Hebrew, it's got both. Okay, nice question. So always keep that in mind. If someone like a counter-missionary, somebody tries to give you something, look, this word means this, right? And it just, something's wrong in your spirit about it. Check out a real lexicon and look, you're probably going to find out it's got 5 meanings. And you got to pick the one that fits right in the passage. And guess what? When you look to the ancient versions, you look at the Targumim, the Aramaic, or you look at the Septuagint, the Jewish Greek. Oh, guess what? Those guys translated it on definition number 5. Not like this blowhard is telling you. Okay, so be careful. Be careful. Yeah. There's different nuances. Don't just let somebody give you one gloss and say that's what it means forever and ever and ever. No. And then that's quite a proof. When you could say, look, then why is it that the ancients chose a meaning that agrees with me in my position and not with yours? And then they have to come up with something that's, oh, well, people broke that translation and they faked it. And why does Jewish academia use it and not trust you? So anyway, so you can kind of see that there's a lot of posturing that goes on with some authorities who know enough Hebrew to be dangerous, right? But that doesn't mean they're honest with the way they present it. So if something just feels wrong, don't just accept it. Go look it up. Check it out. Look in a beefy lexicon and see if one of the other definitions feels more correct for that part. The Ruach can guide you. All right. And finally, our last verse, which is verse Nun Aleph, and we'll be done with the psalm, the long psalm. This is 51. It says, Magdil Yeshuot Malko ve'osei chesed. It's so hard not to sing it. Migdil Yeshuot Malko ve'osei chesed lemshicho le'David uzaro adolam. From the prayer book. So Magdil Yeshuot, who magnifies Yeshuot. So this is plural of Yeshua. Yeshua, meaning victory or salvation. Both of those themes work with what the poet was telling us about in the previous verses, right? How Hashem is mefaleti, he's taking me out, he's rescuing me, right? And we had another word for, tacileni, he's snatching me up, again, rescuing me, right? And now we've got another word that has to do with like a kind of rescue, salvation, or victory, militarily victory. So Yeshuot, it's in the plural, so we could either have the abstract concept of victory in general, but I think he's talking plurals here because all the battles the king had to fight. So Magdil, the one who magnifies, and again he's following the same pattern as the other verse. He's starting with a Piel participle, right? The mem at the front, and then we've got, I'm sorry, this is Hiphil. sorry. But he's starting with a participle, is the point. He's starting with a participle. I can tell it's a Hiphil because there's the yod here. I got thrown off by the dagesh and the dalet, but that's not a strong dagesh. It's a begad kafat, weak dagesh, so it tricked me. So Magdil, I translate it right, who magnifies, right? Causes to be great, that's magnifies. Yeshuot, victories. Of Malko, the melech of O, the king of his choosing, his king. Ve'aseh, and who asa is to do or to make, and who does chesed. Chesed, this lovely word we can't talk too much about because we're almost at an hour, but look at it. You can search on my channel. There's lots of places we talk about chesed, like loving kindness. He demonstrates love. He does. Yeah, kindness is good here. Kindness. Lim shicho, for the Mashiach of O, for his anointed, right? Meaning the king, right? That's in Hebrew parallelism with Melech, for his anointed one. Don't translate his Messiah, but there could be an interesting remez here because we got Yeshua right there, and now we've got Mashiach. So maybe it's a remez. Maybe there's kind of some deeper. You can't use that as a proof text, but it's just interesting. Once you know who Mashiach is, it's hard to not see that everywhere. Le David, to David, or David, if we're using the ancient pronunciation, one of the ancient pronunciations. U and le to Zao, to the zera is the word, the offspring, the seed of him, his offspring, ad, until when? Olam, forever. No problem, Pei, no problem. We're just finishing. It's good you made it in time, though. Click like before you go, Pei. Okay, guys, that's it. We're right at an hour. Hope you enjoyed. We're done with the psalm. Next week we'll be on a different one. Tomorrow we won't have anything live, right? But make sure to tune in if you like the kinds of teachings we do for our triennial teaching on Saturday at 5 p.m. GMT plus 8 or 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, and the rest of you figure out wherever you are. We actually have a lot of people that get up early to come in. Not a lot, but a handful. And I really appreciate that. I'm always excited to see you guys there. Some stay up late, like Yehonatan over there in Oregon. Great. Glad you guys learned a lot. Sorry we didn't get to do the Birkat HaMazon, but I think it was fun. All right. Shalom, everyone.